Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us this hour of World News. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here are the stories that we're looking at this hour. 10 people dead following a shooting at a secondary school in the Austrian city of Graz. Swedish campaigner Greta Thunberg and 11 others who were on the aid flotilla headed for Gaza being deported by the Israeli government. Plus, U.S. President Donald Trump orders the deployment of U.S. Marines into Los Angeles to quell the anti-ICE protests. Let's begin the world today. Tearful families have been consoling one another since the shooting at a school in Graz, Austria. The country has declared 3 days of mourning following the incident. 10 people were killed this morning after shooting at a secondary school. 6 females and 3 males are among the dead, plus the suspect, who police believe killed himself in the school bathroom. The suspect was a 21-year-old former pupil from Graz who did not finish school and who used 2 legal firearms. Police say 2 guns were used in the attack, a long gun and a handgun. Both firearms were legally owned by the suspected gunman, who also had a firearm license. Education Minister Christoph Widecker says he cannot describe in words the shooting and that today is about offering support and help where necessary. He says the school where the attack unfolded will remain closed until further notice. Over in France, a teaching assistant has died after being stabbed by a student outside a school in Nogent, northeast of France. Officials say the 31-year-old teaching assistant was stabbed this morning outside François Dolto Middle School as pupils' bags were being checked by police. French media reported a suspect had been taken into custody, with Prime Minister François Bayrou saying the student was 14 years old. French President Emmanuel Macron said the teaching assistant was a victim of a senseless wave of violence and declared the nation is in mourning. Politicians across parties condemned the attack and called for more action against knife crimes. And at least 3 people have been killed, 13 others injured after Russian drone and missile strikes on the Ukrainian cities of Kyiv and Odessa. In an online statement, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Moscow's forces fired over 315 drones, many of them Shahids, and 7 missiles overnight. According to him, Russian missile and Shahid strikes are louder than the efforts of the United States and others around the world to force Russia into peace. He wrote on X, urging concrete action from the US and Europe in response to the attack. But the Ukrainian president confirmed the exchange of prisoners of war on both sides of the war with Ukraine. That's between Russia and Ukraine. Earlier today, Russia and Ukraine exchanged a new group of prisoners of war under a new deal, which was reached last week during peace talks in Istanbul. Writing on X again today, he said, "We continue to the return of our people as agreed in Istanbul. All of them require immediate medical attention. This is an important humanitarian act." He said the exchange included service members from the Ukrainian Armed Forces, the National Guard, State Border Guard Service, and State Special Transport Service, and that further exchanges are planned. During last week's talks in Istanbul, both sides agreed to release all wounded troops and captured soldiers under the age of 25, more than 1,000 on each side, and to exchange the bodies of 6,000 fallen soldiers each. Well, staying with that story, the Chernihiv region of northern Ukraine had dozens of anxious relatives gathered outside a hospital, forming a human corridor just to see whether their loved ones were among those freed. Many held up photos of sons, husbands, and brothers in hopes that someone might recognize them and offer any news. And one by one, the returning soldiers passed silently through the corridor, their expressions a mixture of joy and exhaustion. Many in the crowd had not received official word on their loved ones for months. and some of them for years. The Ukrainian prisoners of war were in poor health, according to a spokesperson for Ukraine's official body overseeing the prisoners. According to him, they lacked food during the imprisonment and had no access to medical care. More than 200 Ukrainian prisoners of war have died in prison since Russia's full-scale invasion of its neighbor, according to reports. We cross over to Israel now, which says it has deported Swedish campaigner Greta Thunberg a day after the Gaza-bound aid boat she and 11 other people were on was intercepted by Israeli forces in the Mediterranean. Thunberg departed Tel Aviv on this morning on a flight to France after she agreed to be deported, according to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. France says 5 of the 6 French citizens detained alongside her had refused to sign their deportation orders and would now be subject to judicial proceedings. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition, the activist group operating the yacht, the Milan, has demanded the release of everyone detained. The vessel was intercepted early Monday morning while activists tried to deliver what they called a symbolic amount of aid to Gaza in defiance of Israel's maritime blockade and highlight the humanitarian situation there. The Israeli Foreign Ministry dismissed it as a selfie yacht and announced in a post on X on Monday night that the passengers had been transferred to Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport following the vessel's arrival at the port of Ashdod on Monday night. However, Palestinians in Gaza say they were fired on once again as they headed to one of the aid distribution centers run by the Israeli and US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Witnesses said that for the first time they were fired on by Palestinian gunmen near the GHF site in the Tal al-Sultan area of Rafah in the south. They also said Israeli troops fired on them. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry said 6 people were killed, 99 others injured from areas designated for aid collection. The Israeli military said it was looking into these reports, but the GHF said the Tal al-Sultan site did not open on Monday, and there were no incidents at 2 other sites which did hand out aid. Well, a protest by pro-Palestinian demonstrators outside the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office in London saw many arrests on Monday. Protesters had gathered to demand that the government take action after Israeli forces stormed the British-flagged Freedom Flotilla vessel, the Milan, as the crew attempted to break the blockade of Gaza. Demonstrators waved flags and held placards during the rally addressed to the UK authorities, with messages including "Do your job so others don't have to," "Stop the genocide," "Stop the siege on Gaza," "Free Madeleine 12. The rally was attended by Glyn Seeker, who served as captain of the Jewish boats to Gaza, who said the British government should be demanding that they are treated humanely and with dignity. Protesters also criticized the British media, stating it was not devoting adequate coverage to the incident.
Some people are being detained, some of my close friends and others, 12 people, and the eyes of the world are on them and we know their names. There's YouTube videos of them which you should be sharing, SOS videos. But there are not SOS videos of all the Palestinians who are targeted and have been assassinated. And we've sailed since 2008 now 36 boats of different sizes and shapes to try and break this illegal blockade.
They should be demanding that they are treated humanely and with dignity. But the main thing the British government should be doing is challenging the Israeli government by sending an armed force in with food and water and medicines controlled by the United Nations to relieve the dreadful suffering in Gaza.
Hundreds of protesters also took to the streets of Milan in Italy on Monday to condemn Israel's interception of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. The participants rallied with Palestinian flags, banners, and signs bearing slogans. Local police were deployed to monitor the march as protesters wandered across various squares. I want to bring in now human rights activist Olatunji Larry Barua. He joins us from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Olatunji, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think about the activists who had been deported from Israel? They were headed for Gaza when they were intercepted, but to be fair, they'd been warned about this by Israel.
Well, to be fair, they have also stated their intention, and which is to bring attention to the blockage, to the naval blockage of Gaza. And they have emphasized that the plan is to breach the Israeli blockage of humanitarian access into Gaza. So they have stated their mission before they embarked on this mission, and they were stopped in international waters. I know there are a lot of complications with that. One also has to, we have to consider Gaza as a conflict area right now. It's also dangerous for every organization, even countries who intend to send relief materials into Gaza, has to go through an established process, a corridor created by the United Nations. So going through the international waters, and especially Greta is somebody who has been blocked from coming into Israel by the Israeli government because she has been campaigning for the boycott of Israel for a while. So that has to be stated because, to be fair, the Israeli government knew they were coming, and they also stated their mission, and the blockage was not something unexpected. And the flotilla, in its essence, the Madeline ship that they were using to get into Gaza, wasn't a big vessel that could carry, sufficient relief materials or relief. But though they claim that they have baby formulas, rice, flour, and so many medical essentials on the ship. But then we also have to be clear that this particular move was symbolic. I don't see it as, I see it as symbolic. The Israeli government has called it a PR stunt, and which is not necessary considering the dire humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip that needs to be attended to. And not minding, you have to also underscore the fact that the ICC has actually issued an order, a binding order, that access into Gaza should be unimpeded by the Israeli government, which has not been obeyed till now.
So it's a good thing you note that, the Israeli government has also warned about people heading in that direction. And then Greta and the other activists are coming with no protection, security protection, as far as we know. The Israeli government referred to the boat, the yacht that they're coming in, as a selfie yacht, and it does reek of a propaganda or a social media stunt eventually, because here they were after they were intercepted, recording videos of themselves with their names, the countries that they come from, sometimes the organizations they belong to. Greta herself said that she was being kidnapped. Israeli social media activists have also debunked that, referring to what happened on October 7, 2023, as saying that was a kidnap. What's happening to Greta is not a kidnap.
I do not think it's a kidnap. And like I said earlier, I underscore the fact that Greta has been banned from entering Israel. And the Freedom Flotilla coalition has been campaigning against the Israeli government. And that has to be stated. And they already declared their plan that they wanted to breach the blockage, the naval blockage that the Israeli government has imposed on the Gaza Strip. And that has to be stated clearly. The Israeli government knew they were coming, and they had to do what they have done. And it's a good thing they have been handled carefully. And it's a good thing that Greta has been flown back through France to our home country. And I think, as at the last count, about 8 of the activists have refused to sign the deportation papers, and we are told that they are going to appear in the Israeli court for deportation proceedings. So, but that aside, that being said, what they have done is to draw international attention to the need in Gaza, to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and I think they have achieved that. Greta, as a symbol of this movement, has also drawn a lot of attention to this. But we now have to drill in on the fact that the needs in Gaza is unabated. Children are still dying in Gaza as we speak. The Israeli government is still bombing civilian areas. The Israeli government is still attacking refugee camps. The Israeli government is still attacking hospitals. And then, you know, as much as possible, selfless and harmless civilians cannot be made to pay for the sins of terrorists or people that have been classified as terrorists or that are wanted by the Israeli government. And, you know, the crisis is complicated, but as it stands right now, an international corridor for humanitarian intervention has to be created for people to get the needed relief. There are children that are being born every day. There are children that are in need of their life-saving care. And these are being prevented by the Israeli blockade. And this has to be addressed. And it's a fact on its own. And Greta's activist colleagues and with the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, they have done what they needed to do. They have drawn attention. I know that they knew that it was going to be almost impossible, even though I felt it was a very risky move that they took, that this could have ended disastrously. But because the Israeli government knew they were coming, they had to, they seized the vessel in international water. They did not even allow them to get into the Israeli water or to get towards Gaza. So that being said, an international humanitarian corridor has to be created. Access has to be granted for aid and relief to get to the people who are in their need in the Gaza Strip as we speak now.
But you know, it has been difficult, I think, for the IDF to distinguish those who really need aid and those who work with Hamas. And they have established before that, you know, you have Hamas militants who live amongst civilian populations and they hide their weapons, you know, amongst their habitation. They also have incorporated some of these people to work with them as informants and all of that. So it is difficult for them to make that distinction. Also, one of the reasons why they are against any sort of aid, the infiltration of aid into Gaza. But what is your advice to them? Because the need in Gaza is great. They fear that Hamas militants will smuggle weapons and you know, other tools, I guess, into Gaza, and which will in turn be used in fighting against Israel and causing even more havoc on Israeli communities.
And no, I think the fears are misplaced. One, I think the fears are misplaced in the sense that Hamas and their weaponry are not channeled through the aid corridor. The aid corridor, the passage is through Rafah, through Egypt into the Gaza Strip. And that process is well vetted. That process is supervised by the United Nations humanitarian wing. And a whole lot of international donor agencies are involved in that process. Weapons cannot be floated through that humanitarian corridor, through the aid corridor that goes through Egypt. Even the Egyptian government, they're also concerned about that. It's one of the reasons why they have prevented refugees from the Gaza Strip to come into Egypt, except for people who are in their who need their life-saving medical intervention. And those that process is seriously vetted. So back to the issue of weapons being smuggled into Gaza, I think the fears are really misplaced. Getting aid into Gaza, those trucks are vetted. They have to allow the UN to supervise this distribution, to allow it to go in, because an aid truck that goes into Gaza is not enough, because you have to get it to where people are. People are scattered in different parts of Gaza, of the Gaza Strip. So if you don't allow an international agency to supervise this process, these fears will always be on the table. But I always feel that it is misplaced, because weapons get to Hamas through different tunnels, through channels that we don't know of, through channels. They have collaborators from Hezbollah and to other Muslim Brotherhood and all that. And even up till now, this conflict has been raging on for more than a year. And the Israeli government has not been able to totally overwhelm them. The network of tunnels are so much that it is difficult to stop. So we have to separate weapons getting to Hamas from humanitarian aid. and relief getting to the people who need them. There are a lot, people are starving, children are there are women, there are elderly people that need this help. And so under international humanitarian law, this access has to be granted. I'm always on the side of that. I'm on the side that international humanitarian access should be granted to the people in Gaza, and then it can be supervised. If you allow the United Nations to, people can be sympathetic towards them. Because I'm sympathetic towards people who are in need does not mean I'm in support of Hamas. It does not mean the United Nations is endorsing Hamas. It just means that we need to get people the help that they need. Life-saving help needs to get to the people.
Well, Latunji, I appreciate your thoughts and analysis on the program. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Amarachi.
We're off on a short break now on The World Today. Still ahead. Family members of those detained by ICE in Los Angeles demand a stop to the ICE raids. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Trump administration has ordered U.S. Marines into Los Angeles and intensified raids on suspected undocumented immigrants, fueling more outrage from street protesters and Democratic leaders who raised concerns over a national crisis. Some 700 Marines based in Southern California were expected to reach Los Angeles Monday night or this morning, according to officials, as part of a federal strategy to quell street demonstrations opposing the immigration raids, which are all part of a signature effort by President Donald Trump's second term. Although their mission to protect federal personnel and property is temporary, filling the gaps until a full contingent of 4,000 National Guard troops can reach Los Angeles, the deployment is an extraordinary use of military force in support of a police operation. It comes over the objection of state and local leaders who did not request help. Meanwhile, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem pledged to carry out even more operations to round up suspected immigration violators, extending a crackdown that provoked the protests. Trump officials have branded the protests as lawless and blamed state and local Democrats for permitting upheaval and protecting undocumented immigrants with sanctuary cities. Meanwhile, the U.S. President Donald Trump has staunchly defended his decision to deploy National Guard troops to confront immigration protesters in Los Angeles, telling them we have it very well under control. The president criticized California's leaders, saying that they were afraid of doing anything. U.S. officials said about 1,000 National Guard members were in the city under federal orders by midday Monday.
Some of the things you're reading about in Los Angeles, thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped, and a lot of problems they were having out there. They were afraid to do anything, and we sent out the troops, and they've done a fantastic job. So I want to thank them very much. The biggest change from that statement is we have an incompetent governor. So I talked about governors, but I didn't talk about, he's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. You had a disaster happening, and they now admit it was a disaster. I watched the chief yesterday, who's a good man, by the way. And he said, well, we're lucky we did this because they were overwhelmed. You saw what was happening. So we did the right thing. Everybody agrees to that. But you have a governor who let the city burn down, didn't want water. But it's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much. A crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's a wrong philosophy.
U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass pushed back on the deployment of the National Guard on Monday, saying nothing was happening in the city before the raids started. Bass said all of that creates fear and tension in the city, and this was a build-up. She says our city was peaceful before the raids took place. Bass said she blames the people who were creating the violence and that what happened in Los Angeles Sunday night was absolutely unacceptable.
Dial back time to Thursday. None of this needed to happen. Why did we need to have raids here? It was very clear that if raids happened here, that the community was going to respond in a very negative way. I tried to make that case. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. I was very hopeful that we would not have, that the federal government would not have deployed the National Guard. But anyway, I think it's important, period, that peaceful protest is a part of our American tradition. When it results to violence, it will be addressed as though it is violence. People will be arrested and they will be held accountable.
You said Thursday. Did you mean Friday?
No, I meant Thursday, meaning before the raid. The raid happened on Friday. Everything was fine in this city. Just think about that. We weren't having problems with protests. There were no problems with violence. The raids happened on Friday, and in response to especially the arrest of David Huerta, one of the most respected labor leaders that we have in the city, him being injured, going to a hospital. But all of that creates fear and tension in our city. And you know, we have to think about the families on Friday, 3 different workplaces where raids took place. Many of those family members have not been in contact with their relatives. They don't know where their relatives are still here. Are they in Southern California? Have they been shipped to a country that maybe they don't even know? And so the instability that that creates, and we went through this before in the last administration, the last Trump administration.
Family members of some of the detained workers in Friday's workplace raids demanded due process for their relatives and an immediate stop to the raids during a rally in Los Angeles on Monday. The streets of Los Angeles are quiet now, but the smell of smoke hangs in the air in the downtown area. This after the crowds blocked off major freeways and set self-driving cars on fire as police responded with tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbang grenades. Protesters demanded the release of the detained workers.
We all have the right to due process, and that right was denied to my father and many other workers. He is the breadwinner of our family, our support, especially for my younger brothers. My father is part of this community. We demand immediate release of all the workers detained that day. I was present during the raid. I saw with my own eyes the pains of the families, crying, screaming, not knowing what to do, just like me. That's why the families demand free of all workers, legal representation, and due process. Do not allow ICE into workplace. We demand that workplace that collaborate with ICE be held accountable. We demand that our local representatives hold the obstacles that collaborate with ICE accountable. We demand the sanctuary status be respected throughout California. No matter where a person comes from or how they arrived in this country, their lives is valuable. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity.
The ICE raids in Los Angeles are nothing less than a direct attack on working class immigrants, people who are simply going to work, trying to make an honest living, to make ends meet for their families, to put food on the table. The fact that ICE targeted this district, the garment district, is no coincidence. It has long been a place where immigrant labor has sustained not only the industry, but the city itself. These workers, these mothers, these fathers, these brothers and sisters, they are all the heartbeat of our community, and yet they were treated like criminals for the simple act of working.
Let's bring in our intelligence and security expert, Sylvester Okere. He joins me from New York. Sylvester, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I want to get your thoughts on what you think about this, the U.S. president escalating the situation in Los Angeles. First of all, deploying the National Guards and now the Marines.
Thank you. First of all, I was just listening to Mayor Karen Baer's statement, kind of in talking about family as though she cares for family. This was the mayor who abandoned California and was in Ghana when the state was burning. He didn't care. She didn't care. If Donald Trump didn't intervene, that fire, I wonder what would have happened to California. So the president using the National Guard is necessary. If we remember, and I always say this, Patrick Henry said that we judge the future by the past. 2020, Donald Trump called for National Guard before the whatever incident that happened in the DC area. But Mayor of Washington, D.C. and Nancy Pelosi objected that. And we saw the result. We saw what happened. Now, J6. You see, these people they know what they are doing. And I'm not saying, Donald Trump wouldn't have gone in there if the mayor and the governor were doing what they're supposed to do. Instead, they labeled it peaceful protest. When you go back to what happened in 2020 as well, in Portugal, Oregon, that's how the city was burning. They neglected it. Democrats ignored it until when it metamorphosed, when George Floyd died and everything with COVID and so on. That's how they snatched the election. They know what they are doing. So using the National Guard is a necessary thing because these people, when they lose, they don't give up. And when they lose, they go violent. And that's what is happening. So it is the right thing to do to protect lives, to protect properties in the state of California, the most beautiful state. Frankly, one of the Nancy Pelosi and all of them that are at the Congress, even Kamala Harris, they are from California. Well, that is one of the most decimated states in the U.S. If you go there, you see homelessness, you see very dirty. Sometimes there are places in Africa I can say that are better than California, besides Los Angeles, Hollywood, and so on. California is so dirty, and this is one of the best states in the whole world. So because of bad leadership, because of the liberals that are taken over there. So I commend President Donald Trump for intervening at the right time, because if he had delayed, that state would have been, there's nothing to write home about it right now.
So we can understand, why the National Guard was deployed. As you rightly said, what the California leaders depicted as a peaceful protest was really going south, with as the protesters battled with the police, throwing cements and rocks at the police, who were, also trying to ward that off with tear gas and riot gear and so on. But now he's also deployed the Marines. It kind of gives off, the impression that something even more serious is going on in California. What was just an ICE raid and protests against an ICE raid has turned into a major national security crisis.
And because I would say that depends on the kind of intelligence the president may have gathered. He wouldn't have gone in there. We saw this in 2020, how Washington, D.C. turned into a war zone. He wanted to stop that from the beginning. They said no. So using the National Guard or whatever approach he is taking right now to prevent damages, to prevent loss of life, to prevent the attack on law enforcement, people that are actually there to secure assets and properties and so on. They shouldn't be attacked. I was just looking at the whole scene and say, imagine when the President Trump was calling these people terrorists, people were saying, oh, he's a racist, this and that. But these are actual terrorists, because you know what? You can't come to one country, even though you want to be deported or whatever, and so on, and you're not born in the city. I can imagine, did Nigeria born South Africa, or Ghana born Nigeria, or Nigeria born Ghana when the deportation was taking place? No. Okay, if the country said you are not qualified, you are illegal, you're undocumented, you have to go, then you go. Remember, you came in the illegal process, undocumented. So these are terrorists, and if you stop them, if you neglect that, something is going to come out of it. So it is better to arrest the situation at this time. And what he's doing, it is right. Whether it's National Guard or the Marine, they are not killing anybody anyway. They are there to protect. They are not shooting anybody. They are there to protect. So we should understand that. But the media and the Democrat, they're going to make it, oh, he has done this and that. If you have done the right thing, the president wouldn't have stepped in there. That is the point right there.
So I think the problem really is the raids that ICE is conducting on workplaces. ICE is also has a mandate to go into people's homes and pick up these illegal immigrants. And the people who have had loved ones taken from them are upset about this, and they're saying the raids have to stop. What exactly is ICE's mandate? I mean, apart from the one that was given by President Donald Trump, what is ICE's mandates, the modalities for removing illegal immigrants from the country?
The ISIS mandate is also President Trump's mandate. He is the commander-in-chief. This is what he ran for. He ran for cleaning up and securing America. And if you're chasing a criminal, whatever approach, whatever tools in your hand, you're going to use that. So sometimes some of these people are hiding them. Imagine the judge is also covering up. So all of those kind of obstruction of justice. I have lived in Germany. I have been to several places. There is always, even Nigeria, when you are chasing immigrants or aliens, you want to find them, you go wherever you want to find them. But these ones are not just illegal immigrants or aliens. These are terrorists. Because you can't be born in a country. You can't be born in a city just because they want you to leave. That's terrorism. So whatever approach they are, and as they were doing the right thing, they go to places they are sure of that these individuals are being hid or run into. And I think that's the approach. I've been an immigration officer, and I know that that's the same thing any immigration would do in any part of the world.
So, okay, so you do subscribe, to the modalities that ICE is employing in this instance. So, Governor Gavin Newsom and well, Governor Gavin Newsom basically is the one who's saying he will be suing the U.S. president, first of all, for deploying the National Guard, and then for even talking about his arrest. Yesterday, President Trump said, was saying that if it was him, he would have arrested the governor. In this instance, is there more to this, the spat between the president and the state governor? Should we read more meaning into this? The fact that Newsom is Democrat, he's always spoken against Donald Trump, and then Trump himself has also never liked Gavin Newsom in the first place. Do you think there's more going on underneath that is coming to the surface now?
No, I don't think so, because let's turn it around. If this was Donald Trump, by now they will be calling for his arrest. We saw what happened already. You see, imagine you arrest a president of the United States president, but you are actually fighting for illegals not to be arrested. The president of the country was arrested. He was humiliated, intimidated, but you are now defending criminals, immigrants, illegals. So if he had done what he's supposed to do as the governor of the state, those wars won't come, National Guard won't come, Marine won't come, nothing else will come out there. But he wasn't doing his work, just something he did on the fire. If it wasn't Donald Trump, that fire, California would have been. I met somebody, I traveled, I don't want to say his name. I came back from Portugal a few weeks ago. I met someone, and he said the reason why he's in Portugal is because he and his family, they left that place because of fire. People don't know what these radicals or these liberals are doing, but they will project this kind of, we care for family. You care for family and fire is burning and you run away. You care for family and fire is consuming them and you are in Africa enjoying yourself and so on. Nobody said don't participate in the inaugural process or an invitation, but there is something very serious that you can cancel that visitation over there. So Governor Newsom, he can sue. They've been suing. There are so many lawsuits and so on, but the law will take its process.
Thank you so much, Sylvester. Appreciate your analysis on this. As a former immigration officer yourself and a security analyst, thank you for joining us on The World Today.
Thank you.
A man in Texas has been charged with murder after he allegedly slipped an abortion drug into his pregnant girlfriend's drink. Justin Anthony Banter was arrested on Friday after a months-long investigation into his former girlfriend's accusation that he gave her the Plan C pill, known as an abortion drug, without her knowledge. Banter's ex-partner said when she disclosed her pregnancy last year, he had offered to cover the cost of an abortion, but she expressed her desire to keep the baby. Police said after meeting with Mr. Banter in a coffee shop, she expressed heavy bleeding and visited the emergency room, but lost her baby a few days later. A new report by the United Nations Population Fund says that the reproductive rights and fertility decline is becoming a global norm. The agency is taking its strongest line yet on fertility decline, warning that hundreds of millions of people are not able to have the number of children they want, citing the prohibitive cost of parenthood and the lack of a suitable partner as some of the reasons. UNFPA surveyed 14,000 people in 14 countries, but about their fertility intentions. 1 in 5 said they have not had or expect that they will not have the desired number of children. The countries surveyed were South Korea, Thailand, Italy, Hungary, all the way to Nigeria. They account for 1/3 of the global population. We're off to another break now on The World Today. Still ahead. Yeah, how traditional can you go with medicine? The custom of swallowing live juvenile fish as cure for asthma is still thriving in parts of India today. We'll take a look at that. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Kenya, dozens of activists held a protest outside the morgue where the body of Albert Omondi Ojwang is being kept. Ojwang had died while in police custody. Initial police statement said he sustained head injuries after hitting his head against a cell wall in custody. He had been arrested following accusation he tarnished the name of the deputy police chief on social media. Ojwang family lawyer Julius Juma said the 31-year-old's body bore signs of several physical trauma, including swelling on the head, nose, and ears. Juma also cited bruises on Ojwang's shoulders and hands, injuries which he said were consistent with a single impact against a wall. Kenya's Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched an investigation into his death.
We are tired. We are tired. Every day we are being killed. Albert Ojwang did not deserve to die. The people he expected to protect him took his life. The only...
By Sunday morning, one more young Kenyan with a promising future was lying cold, dead at Nairobi's Central Police Station, assassinated by the police.
We saw the body yesterday, and the body had a lot of injuries on the head. The body had a lot of injuries on the hand, the shoulder area, but the head was swollen all around. The frontal part of the head, the nose, the ears, generally the head was swollen. And there was a lot of blood oozing from both the nose and the mouth.
Over in South Africa, people have been asked to brace for changing extreme cold weather. A powerful cold front has already gripped the Western Cape, is expected to sweep across most of the country, sparing only Limpopo. The South African Weather Service has issued multiple alerts, warning of significant drops in temperature and severe weather conditions. Some regions are forecast to experience daytime highs below 10 degrees Celsius. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Valenkosini Hlabisi has called on provincial and local authorities to remain on high alert.
We are ready and on standby on any kind of intervention as we are closely monitoring the developments in terms of bad weather since Saturday up to today, as it is going to compound. As we have seen, by the time we go to bed, the snow has started to accumulate. It is going to be our focus, and from provincial to national and local government sphere, all systems have been activated together with the humanitarian organizations who always come on board during these times.
Last night, you're seeing a drop in temperatures over the central interior, which then covers the most provinces that you expect snow from is the southern parts of the Free State, the Eastern Cape, as well as the southern areas of KwaZulu-Natal. For most parts of the provinces from today into Tuesday, as well as into Wednesday, we're just going to expect very cold conditions.
Well, the High Court in Johannesburg today said several society groups are taking legal action against Operation Dudu. They accuse the group and some of its leaders of spreading hate speech and targeting migrants. The organizations also say government officials have failed to act against Operation Dudula's actions, which they believe are fueling division and discrimination. The anti-migrant group, Operation Dudula, has become notorious for raiding businesses belonging to foreign nationals and forcing shops to close.
Because those statutes in Namibia, Botswana and the UK do not confer powers on immigration officers and police officers to walk the streets, enter people's homes without warrants, and randomly demand people's documents, including of children. At least one of the comparative statutes also has an age restriction rule. So we submit that those comparative statutes actually support the declaration of invalidity in relation to Section 41. Lord, in this regard, we have sought alternatives. So the primary relief that we seek is a declaration that Section 41 is inconsistent with the Constitution and invalid, and reading in language to remedy the three constitutional defects that we've identified. Limiting it to public places so that it can't be used in homes, the reasonableness requirement, and finally excluding children. That's our primary relief. My Lord, we have sought the alternative relief of an interpretive declarator. If your Lordship were to conclude that it's possible to interpret Section 41 to render it consistent with the Constitution by incorporating these elements, then we submit that a declarator to that effect is appropriate.
Well, they're keeping customs alive in Hyderabad, India. Looking at an Nepali exhibition ground in Telangana state showing crowds jostling to collect moral fingerlings. The participants are handed over their catch to on-site volunteers who help force-feed them the live fish, smeared with yellow herbal paste. Together, this mixture is known as fish prasadam. So one of the officials explains that if they take the medicine, they'll be relieved from breathing problems. They've come here for the second time. They felt much better after taking it last year. As you can see, quite difficult to keep it down because the fish is live. When the fish goes in, they say there's little discomfort, but it's comfortable soon afterwards. Many people don't feel any issue. The paste is composed of turmeric, starch, and other ingredients. It's packed into the mouth of a juvenile Murray fish and then placed in the patient's mouth to swallow whole without water. Believers say the wriggling motion of the fish helps to clear the airways and reduce phlegm. However, the treatment remains unsupported by scientific evidence. The date of the ritual is determined annually by astrologers, and recipients are advised to return for 3 consecutive years to complete the full course of treatment. I do apologize. I did not warn you about that coming. Well, let's hope that the rest of your evening is more palatable than this. Thanks for watching The World Today.